everyone, and welcome to the chat. Season 2, Episode 9. Tradition? More like...
the name. Start over.
What'd I say?
You said the chat.
I said the... Okay,
Yeah,
best
you
of
messed
6. Alright, rewind.
Don't know
I was
what
waiting
the
for that
chat
to happen
is.
at some point.
Bite size.
Alright, when we do the recorded version, we'll just start it here. Alright. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Best of 6, Season 2, Episode 9. Tradition, more like Shenpoo 3?
Personally, I think the chat was a better name.
It wasn't.
Kind of me too.
And your host.
And joining me, as always, is Dan, Julian, Lerone, Mauricio, and Mitch. The whole gang is here for the first time in a while. Let's dive right into our first news topic.
Let's get right into the news.
No.
Wrong podcast. So the Discord game store is now open. We talked about this a few weeks ago, that Discord announced that they were going to be launching a game store, and now the game store is live. Mitch, do you got anything to add to that?
You have the amazing ability to use Discord to open up a game on Steam, which will then open up the game on Origin, which will then crash your computer.
Excellent. That's the feature I was waiting for.
Is this the Steam Killer Boys or?
Well, Discord's trying to supplement them. It's Discord's whole thing is it says we can search your computer for every game that you own, and you can launch them all from here. So
Okay.
you don't have that whole. I don't want to buy it on Origin because I already own it on Steam. Like it knows, and it won't try to sell you games you already own.
So yeah, Discord perpetually says I'm playing Dolphin. I wonder if it'll launch Melee for me. I mean, I legally obtained an ISO of Melee for my own Discord Melee, of course.
Ah.
Uh-huh.
Because
How do
that
you
After
legally
off of
obtain
Amazon.
an ISO? I'm not gonna.
Nintendo gave it to him.
That's a really easy way to do it. With
Yeah, you actually can rip your own ISO
Okay.
off of
okay.
a disc.
as long as you don't.
Which is
distribute
what I
them.
did.
And
guys.
that's how the nefarious ISOs get out there anyway, is because somebody had to rip it at some point.
Yeah. Okay.
But my ISO is not nefarious.
Right, you did it yourself.
Yeah.
And emulators are perfectly A-okay.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, yeah, they are. Emulators are legal. It's just the ROMs are the stuff that's illegal.
And not to be fair, not all emulators are legal
Oh.
necessarily.
I actually didn't know that.
Well,
it's
If
a
it
matter
comes with
of
a bio.
Yes,
also a matter of creating the code from the ground up. or
exactly. Yeah,
stealing it
if
from the
you
console.
if you steal code from the console in order
Oh,
to
okay.
emulate it, then that's a violation. Anyway, we're already severely off
Yeah,
topic.
we're really off topic.
Keep
But
going.
but you know it's just fine. Stealing code from an emulator to make a game to sell on the virtual console, Nintendo.
Okay, I was really hoping that was actually going to be a segue of some type, but that wasn't a segue to
I
any.
segued
I
back-
even
I
clicked onto the
segued-
next tab, just blindly hoping that
I
was a
segued
segue.
Back into what you tried to segue away from.
So there's a widespread belief that it is illegal to capture wild dolphins in the U.S. However, even though no permits have been granted for capture since 1989, it's still legal to capture dolphins.
Are there dolphins in the U.S.?
Well, I searched legal status of dolphin, thinking
Oh.
That is the most off topic you could have.
Or marine biology. Oh, speaking of marine biology, Tirzu. He mains Yoshi in Mario Party.
I thought you were
Speaking
talking
of
about
marine
JoJo.
biology, Jotaro.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Speaking of marine biology, EA confirms remasters of classic Command and Conquer games won't have microtransactions.
It's a great
Hey.
selling point when your game doesn't have microtransactions. That's enough to build hype. They did it,
Yeah.
Lerone. They did it.
Well, is this more like them, like the media asking them and them saying no, or is this like them trying to sell their game? Like, hey, this one won't have microtransactions, because those are two very different things. They're asked, and then
They were
say
asked.
no.
They were
Yeah.
asked.
What's the big
I
deal
will-
about that?
I
mean,
will point out then, for Anthem, at their E3 preference, they came out and said, no microtransactions, no loot boxes, whatever.
That's enough to
At
have.
least,
a-
at least for Anthem, it's the case that we all jumped to.
it's weird that like loot boxes are so successful, but like so hated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're only successful because the whales buy them, right?
Yeah.
They're
Right.
they're a detriment to 99% of the player base.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's really a case where they're just like, we're gonna screw over 99%
for the
And-
greater cost of money,
for the greater income.
the
Yep.
greater good.
Pretty
Does
much.
anyone-
Greater weeaboo.
Has anyone played Command and Conquer? Because I haven't.
I used to play Red Alert 2, which is in that series, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Back
I
when.
used to watch someone play Red Alert. Does that count? I think it's sitting on my yeah. I think I have Command and Conquer 3 on my desk.
Okay.
So is there any is Command and Conquer just kind of similar to Age of Empires?
In
Sort
the
of.
respect
It's
that
like-
it's an RTS, then sure.
Okay. I know nothing about Command and Conquer, so I'm trying to grapple onto something that I can relate to.
Same.
It's pretty much a RTS. You build up your guys with guns, and you get your tanks and your super weapons, and you blow up half the map.
Yeah.
You bring in Tanya to kick some esport.
Nice.
Who?
Tanya.
Tanya.
This random girl with a gun that walks up.
Or you could go get that phone game.
No.
Show off your sick APM skill.
Still can't believe EA zoomed in on like those players' thumbs at E3.
Did you not see how fast and control
Have you,
thumbs were
have, you,
moving?
have you never seen a melee stream zoom in on Armada's hand? Be like, look at how many buttons he's pushing.
That's different.
That's different because he's
Well, he
actually
actually pressed,
he's,
like-
he's actually pressing a lot of Armada's pressing a lot of buttons.
It
And they
was literally
zoom.
like a tap every 2 seconds.
That's fair.
It was, yeah, the APM of the phone game was not very much of a spectacle.
The whole thing was not.
Yep.
Screw EA.
Screw EA. And speaking of EA, except not at all, the Russian Black Desert online servers have been completely wiped.
Fantastic.
I don't know what most of those words mean.
Yeah,
I'm
so
gonna
Mitch,
look
why
it up.
don't you
Black
fill the
Desert
people
Online?
in?
You
Alright,
mentioned
so
what?
Russia is a country, and you know.
Oh, I
the
didn't know
Eastern
that.
coun-
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
Russian Black Desert was like the name of the game.
So Russia has 11 time zones, and they once lost a war to Japan. Let that sink in.
The Russo-Japanese war. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Fun fact,
all 11 time zone Russia.
Russia is also the biggest country in the world, even if you include
And-
Antarctica as a country.
Holy shit, back on topic, please.
Holy esport.
Also,
Oh my
this is on
gosh.
topic.
Do we really need to be on topic though? Like,
And we are on topic. That was the second word of the title.
I will take it severely off topic if Dan lets me. Do I have
What?
permission?
I don't know why you need permission from me.
We've only gotten 2
Uh,
words into the title. That's
We
fine.
barely talked about the article.
I think we glossed over the word "the" a little bit. Maybe we should take a step back.
Quick, Dan, can you go look at the dictionary definition of let's just look. You know what? Esport. Black Desert Online is an MMO that's seriously terrible. It's really bad. It's full of microtransactions. It's like the worst thing you could ever imagine, but it has a really, really in-depth character creation. So you can make some really beautiful characters. It's amazing. This game is also really old. I mean, not like MapleStory old, but within the last 5 years, I guess. No,
Okay.
it's pretty.
Speaking of MapleStory,
Hold on,
MapleStory
not
2
a-
is trash.
So a server, Jake, you want to explain what a server is?
It's a
Explain what it
computer on the internet that you can communicate with on the internet.
All right, so have been taken down. All right, so the servers are no longer accessible. That's not really the big issue here. So essentially what happened is you have this MMO, has a ton of microtransactions, and you cannot progress in this game reasonably without dropping a ton of money in it, which is why it's mostly like a Korean thing. But
Mhm.
So in Russia, whoever is responsible for selling the game or maintaining the servers or whatever sold their rights to do it to another company. So this other company, you know, they can now sell stuff, and I may be paraphrasing, I may have some information wrong, but the general idea is they're now in control of the servers. They did not buy the player. So they can, you know, run the game, but they have they bought a GameCube without the memory card. they just like, well, I don't know if they're still down, but when the story launched, it was that nobody had access to any of their, you know, player data or any of the money they spent on the game. Their investment's just gone. but it's Russia, so it probably won't ever get solved.
Damn.
Yeah, so I like the short version here that basically the company that bought the game, Pearl Abyss didn't obtain the user data for players when taking over the game, so instead of buying it from GameNet, they just booted everyone from the game, and who knows what happens next.
It's a bold
Yay.
move, Cotton.
That sounds like the most incompetent thing I've ever heard, like of a
Yeah.
company doing. Like,
Yeah.
Yep. So they bought an existing player base and then lost that entire player base.
Instantly.
I like this one comment. You laugh, but that's what Nintendo was doing for their online games.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's true. That's not untrue.
It's a little different in scope, but yeah. Speaking of Nintendo, Rockstar responds to blowback over Red Dead Redemption 2's team 100-hour work weeks.
So I heard that was only like 2 guys on the team at the top who were actually doing that.
Yeah. Like, so I mean, this isn't too surprising. I don't know.
What are you guys' thoughts on companies doing this? Like, I don't know.
So,
like,
Crunch
Uh,
was fine, and like I don't know, 2 weeks leading up to it, I'd say. I have no experience in it, so I don't know.
But like,
Problem with video games is normally they already work 60-hour weeks, so the crunch usually puts them up to like 80, which is kind of
So-
ridiculous.
9 to 5. Well, okay, so I work an 8 to 5 job, but I
Okay.
take an hour for lunch.
Right.
mhm.
So that's 40-hour work week. I can't even imagine working. Like, I can imagine working more than I do. I've put in 60-hour weeks in the past and stuff like that.
It's not
but-
consistent, right?
No.
Like you do that once and then you're good for a few months.
100 hours is 16-hour days for 5 days. That would be 80, and then another 10 hours each day on the weekend. So you're working 16 hours weekdays, 10 hours on weekends. That's what a 100-hour work week looks like. That's just like
Yeah, that's insane.
put
So
that.
so do you just finish your job and like go to sleep on your desk?
So I was
Yeah.
actually listening to the Funhouse, the Dude Soup podcast today, and a couple of the people in that have worked in the industry, and so they know about this whole like the amount of hours you put in, and this whole timeline of crunch and all the other hours that they put in, and that the whole industry is like just riddled with that kind of stuff. And some companies they kind of use that to their advantage, and like they'll bring on like a tester that's like only a temporary person working on the project or whatever, and they'll kind of not hint at it, but people will put in more hours and like work obscenely crazy, like 100-hour stints and stuff, which is ridiculous. And they'll hire them on, and then people will see that and they'll kind of abuse that, like, well, this person already works like hell, let's just keep making him work like hell. So
That's why you need unions.
they did say, yeah, they did say that I think somebody mentioned earlier that it was like some not older, but like some more senior guys that have been doing this, and they said that it was of their own choice that they don't make their workers do this. If they choose to put the extra hours in, they're okay with that, but they don't tell them like, hey, you need to force yourself to work 100 hours a week. It's nuts.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's
And
just
usually that's only
It's
a-
just the nature of the industry too, because it's like,
Yeah. It's-
people could be like, oh, look at this is ludicrous, they're making them work all this much. But like, if you're willing to wait an extra year for the game to come out, or maybe pay extra because of how much time people are putting in the game, well, that's maybe something to explore. But it's like, realistically, there's 2 groups of people, and I don't think like the latter will be like willing to pay that extra. It's like, oh, it sucks that they're working all these hours, but 60 hours I don't want to pay more than 60. You know what I mean? It's like,
well,
Yeah.
I would say that after like 60 hours a week, are you really putting in efficient? Is that really efficient to say, I'm going to spend all of my waking hours working? Like, after a while, do you not get fatigued? Do you not?
There's
Sorry.
definitely diminishing returns. Like, there have been studies done on this kind of thing, on like
Yeah.
how productive like people can be. on schedules like this, and you get like significant diminishing returns even after 35 hours.
And
You
then-
start
then
getting
you start
diminishing
spe-
returns.
You start spending your good hours fixing the mistakes you made in your bad hours.
That is definitely
Yeah.
a problem.
And then
Yeah.
a second thing I would say, which I just forgot because Julian said yeah. So go continue, Julian. I'll come back to that.
I'm kind of in the middle about this, I guess, because on one hand, I empathize with these workers working 100 hours, but at the same time, like they're going to release, I'm assuming, like a quality product. But you all mentioned like diminishing return. Like, is this really worth it? I'm assuming it's going to be worth it for Red Dead Redemption 2 because, like, this is probably going to be Game of the Year, like, or at least a candidate for Game of the Year.
Yeah, Smash Ultimate's coming out. I'd hold off on that one.
Yeah, Sakurai.
I don't want to be
wouldn't
that guy,
surprised
but
if
I
it was
feel like
similar.
Red Dead has a higher chance than Smash, just because Smash, I feel like it's
Smash is just coming out too late.
Well, yeah, that.
Well,
I
no,
think-
I was just gonna say
I
that
think
like Red
in
Dead is a
America,
different
Red Dead will probably take
Yeah,
it.
Red Dead is like the
Yeah.
Oscar bait of video games.
Oscar bait.
Oscar bait is like when
You make
movie
a bad
studio-
movie that's just so full of tropes it gets an Oscar.
No, it's you make it towards the end of like.
You make it
the
towards the
movie
end of Oscar
cycle.
like if
Yeah.
you actually look at the movies that are released throughout the year, you'll notice right before Oscar season a very particular like genre, like very
Right.
particular genres of movies are made, and
Yeah.
they're made for people who like film. They're not made for your average person. So like you get your summer blockbusters. Beginning of the year, you get the risky films that like the studios don't really have faith in, and then end of the year for Oscar season, you get the like avant-garde, artistic
Right.
Oscar bait.
Yep.
I got you now. Okay.
And like, I'm not saying that like Red Dead's not a great game because there's kind of a stigma against Oscar bait movies, but what I am saying is like Red Dead definitely is game of the year material, whereas Smash, while it might, be more fun for more people, is not the type of game that wins that kind of award.
It's not the narrative PlayStation 4 experience that the
Yeah.
awards givers are looking for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, get him, Mitch.
I
Although-
mean,
I'm acknowledging a bias. I'm not critiquing the games.
Get him.
there's
Here.
Spider-Man, God of War, Assassin's Creed looking pretty high rated. Red Dead.
I heard Assassin's Creed has a lot of problems with grind and just trying to force you to buy microtransactions.
Really, I
I
haven't heard
really,
that.
I mean,
Did they?
every single Assassin's Creed has kind of felt like a cash grab for a while now. I
Yeah.
remember back when I used to watch E3 religiously, like it was right before they announced 3 or something like that, and they said we're gonna release an Assassin's Creed game every year, and I'm like, that's something that you're announcing as like something you're happy about?
Well,
Like-
it's funny you say that, Dan, because Disney did the same goddamn thing.
The same god esport.
With
Oh, for
what?
Star Wars.
Yeah,
And look
Yeah,
how
we're
that
gonna
turned
release
out.
a Star Wars movie every year.
yeah, they said that. They said every year a new Star Wars till the end of time. That's
Till the end of
pretty
time.
much.
I feel like with movies, it's easier to make teams for that to kind of split the workload. I might just not know anything.
Well, yeah, it's just like with video games. If you're gonna try and pump out a game every year, you can't really change the engine in any fundamental way.
Well,
It's-
unless
you need
unless they
to-
do a Call of Duty approach where they have
3 different studios all doing it.
right, and so they each have 3 years to make the next game.
Yeah.
People still complain COD is still the same game, even with the 3
I've
developers.
heard good things about Black Ops 4.
Yeah, that is true.
Like Black
People
Ops
are saying
4
that
seems
might
to
be
like,
game of the
the
year,
first
too.
good one in a long time.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't follow. Like, whenever I hear about a new COD game, I
Right.
immediately just tone it out.
I mean, to be
Like-
fair, that genre of game has kind of gotten watered down over time, just
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it hasn't evolved very much. Like
Yeah.
they've sort of pushed the genre towards its max.
Yeah, Doom got it, figured it out, and everyone's just been copying them since the 90s.
Ooh. Ooh. Sick
I didn't mean
burn.
that to be like. That
It's
was
true, though.
mostly a joke.
I mean, the same way you have Rogue and the whenever everyone, there's a lot of games are copying that. It's just you have genre-defining games, and that's just how it goes.
Roguelike. But anyway, moving on. Speaking of roguelikes, Ninja teaches Ellen to play Fortnite.
Oh, that was
That
a
was
decent
that was
transition.
bad.
that
Roll
was
up,
awful.
Ninja.
That was awful.
the-
I wanted to
that's
talk about-
that's been the point of my transitions today, is that they're supposed to all be terrible.
It does not go well.
No,
That's
it
a great article title.
Yeah.
Is Ellen the one who had started the whole vaccines thing?
No,
What the hell are you talking
No,
Alright,
what?
I'm thinking of someone else then.
Yeah, Ellen's
I
just.
don't know if
she's-
anyone like started the whole vaccines. thing.
There was a
Well,
talk
there's
show
Jenny-
Oh, you mean Jenny McCarthy?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think Jenny McCarthy ever hosted a talk show.
Yeah, I don't think she hosted a talk
Yeah.
show.
There
But
was
she
something where
started the
someone was
anti-vax.
there was an interview and she said to like wholeheartedly believe.
It wasn't Ellen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah, Ellen's mostly fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is just another example of
Ninja's
Ninja bringing gaming into the mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This article I really put in here for you, Dan.
Yeah. I'm like, I've never ever watched Ninja's stream before, but I'm a Ninja fanboy anyway.
Oh. You see that money? You're like, he can be good to me.
You know.
I just feel like there's a gap being bridged between mainstream and gaming cultures, and he's the one bridging the gap, and
Yeah.
that's cool.
I will be the bridge between our two worlds.
That's true.
Yeah.
The only
And
good part of season 2 Korra.
True.
and for everyone who subs to our stream today, we will gift a sub to Ninja.
Yeah.
Stop.
I don't think we can commit to that.
Yamero.
I do think Ninja's making too much money. He doesn't need all that money.
Yeah,
but overall, I like him, and he also
And
likes Melee. What's there not to like about a guy who's making video games mainstream, like competitive video games mainstream, while also liking Melee?
Let me introduce you to my friends at r/Kappa.
Does r/Kappa have like a what's the opposite of a raging hard on?
Hate.
Your
Hate?
dick shriveling up inside of you.
A throbbing esport.
Does
Circle
does
jerk of hate.
Kappa have a throbbing esport for Ninja?
They hate Melee and anyone who has ever played the game.
Yeah.
Oh,
should-
I knew
Yeah,
about
we're
that.
talking about
They,
Melee.
they have a bot that will flame you if you've ever posted in the Smash Bros subreddit.
I think it's so weird because like, well, I guess I've only gone on to r/Kappa after something controversial happened in the Smash community to see them freak out about it. But it
Oh,
seems
yeah.
like they spend a lot of time freaking out about Smash.
Oh yeah, for sure.
No, when that catfishing thing happened, that
When
was
you
like
took
the
it?
most,
Oh my
the
god.
biggest post on our Kappa, and they were really salty that it was a Smash post.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like the top 10 posts on our Kappa, like over half of them are
Gross.
Smash related. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
top
sure.
of all time.
What's our Kappa?
It's
It's
a
a
a
fighting game
subreddit.
subreddit, but
Yeah,
it's,
and they,
Smash isn't a fighting game, so.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's
they
a
hate
Smash
Melee.
they hate Melee and they also hate esports. Like they hate the
So these people have no
idea-
friends.
well,
I mean,
they don't hate esports as in they love competitive fighting games and they love playing fighting games competitively. They hate the idea like, oh, casters need to tone down their language. They hate conceding any sort of like to any sort of political correctness that comes with esports.
So they would hate this show then, or at least Mitch's
yeah,
role.
Yeah, they would very much hate me.
I mean, we're all Smash fanboys besides Mauricio, so like
Yep.
they would hate us immediately.
Oh man, fun fact: Ninja gained 666 subscribers today, so that's
Ooh.
cursed.
That's it.
Oh boy.
Most of the top posts of all time are like Capcom sucks.
Yeah, he only
Yeah,
gained
they're doing better
666.
now.
I love that. I love that about the FGC. It's like and Mega Man fans too. I love it. It's like Capcom sucks. Oh, but the new game is coming out. We gotta play it.
That's a good transition for me.
Hey, they like the
That
game.
is-
They don't like the company.
A good transition into Mitch's topic.
I have a topic.
Yes.
Are we done with the news?
Oh no, it's over.
Yeah.
Bye,
Or yeah,
everyone.
we're caught up on the news.
That's
So
Half an hour.
wait, this is kind of funny. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This number 7 post of all time on r/kappa is upvote if you think Street Fighter 5 sucks. Number 8 vote or the number 8 post is upvote if you think Capcom has done a poor job on Street Fighter 5.
Yep. What did I say?
But they're doing better
But-
now with Capcom. I mean, Mega Man 11 came out.
Apparently, that's
Onimusha.
good.
Yeah, those are both. a year old.
Onimusha, whatever.
There's like no Smash. We were completely.
I'm the
wrong.
only Onimusha
This
fan.
was years ago.
And I think that's kind of lazy that they're just putting out the PS2 version of Onimusha, and it just looks a little better because it's so old that you can only make it look so good.
It's been long enough that enough FGC things have happened to talk about.
Also, are we sure that they don't delete some of the Smash posts?
It could be. Also, like they
But,
didn't
like,
really have a huge.
Would they
blow
delete?
up over the?
Well, okay. So this is one of their top posts. It's like number 14 or so.
Do note that
it
this subreddit
says-
is not safe for work. So
Every Smash player's worst nightmare, and
Oh
it's just
my
a picture of deodorant, which is
I mean, that's kind of true. I'm not gonna lie.
Wait,
Oh, yeah.
what?
yeah.
I
And
missed that.
that's just an esports thing in general.
Yeah.
The Smash community, though, for reasons, is known for being extra bad with deodorant.
In the
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh community.
That's the one thing.
And Magic the Gathering.
Like it's true, but
And that's the
it's true
sad
for
part.
other places too.
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah.
just like a lot of the other FGs. The Smash community is nerdier, I think, than like some of the other fighting games, which is I
Yeah.
think why it gets that reputation. Because on
Yeah.
average, nerdier people
Also,
are
Smash
sometimes
tournaments
less.
do smell.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Been to several. They smell.
yeah. Hold your breath.
Oh, you know what smells worse though?
Yu-Gi-Oh
Magic
tournament.
pre-release events.
Magic pre-release.
At least
I've been to a
the
few. They weren't that bad.
the ones I went to in Marquette when I was going to school, they smelled real bad.
That sucks for you, but I went to the pre-releases that I always would go to is like a Hobby Town USA near my house. Everybody there took showers. So
Wow.
I used to go to
Honestly, the
Yeah.
worst smelling tournaments I've been to were the
Or at IIT. Yeah. Oh man. IIT tournaments had like some of the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be just IIT in general.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, the bog just smelled like BO, just
Yeah.
all the time. But anyway, instead of talking about things that nobody knows, let's move on to Mitch's PowerPoint.
Oh God, I'm not ready, but I am.
There's just a picture of two naked Asian ladies.
Yeah, that's Kappa. Just ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah, our
Yeah.
Kappa does that.
Their banner is the banner still a row of butts?
that's awesome. What?
It is
No.
always
No.
funny when they flame posts that are like Melee created wave dashing or they coined the term. It's like you have never played Tekken, have you? It is funny seeing them put people like that down. If it is mean.
All right, so the fourth upvoted post on our Kappa is an Ivy cosplayer doing porn.
Great.
Nice.
All right. So speaking of R Kappa and porn, games and tradition.
Yay!
that was the transition
That's the
of
best
the
one
night.
today. That's both the best and the worst.
No. No need to put that down. That was the best.
All right, Mitch, take it away. What are we talking about
All
today?
right. Well, I'm going to talk about how games use tradition to either enhance the games or, use it as a tool of detriment to the game.
You say tradition?
Yeah.
Okay. Just
So
making
kind
sure
of-
I understood that.
kind of using what has been done in the past and just kind of keeping it there because that's the way it's always been.
Hey, we did this already. We talked about COD.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did. I'm going to talk about it again.
Okay, cool. Are you actually going to talk about Call of Duty specifically?
It's on my list.
Nice.
Anyways, feel free to interject at any point. Because of circumstances where the host of this got swapped out at the last minute, this is not as long as I want it to be. So,
Objection.
feel free to.
Tune in next week for just an hour and a half of Jake apologizing.
Yep.
Jake, you changed all of this in like an hour?
And I
Like
don't
Mitch's
know.
presentation.
He just changed the text because he decided that having
Oh.
green on white wasn't good, so he put
I-
white on green instead.
I mean, and the back,
Like a
the
different version
text
of
and the background and the.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's just formatting stuff.
oh, do you have my updated one with the extra pictures?
It doesn't really matter.
All right. Are you on the title? I should pull up the stream.
I'm on the structure
Oh,
slide.
okay. Is this the one with the giant egg?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, you have the updated one then.
Yeah, I've got it.
So
We
you can
good.
probably guess games like to use tradition to influence their structure.
Elaborate. I don't know what that means.
So think about I'll go for I have examples on the next page, but think about say Mega Man, right? You
Okay.
boot up the game.
Super
You got it.
fighting robot.
You gotta exactly. You got a screen with what? 8 to 9 bosses. Each of them's gonna be
8.
a level.
It's always 8.
8. Okay, exactly. It's always 8. That's the tradition. And they build around that, right?
Yep.
And then you'll have your boss rushes at the end.
This is sounding like our Pokemon Pokemon topic last week. They all have
Yeah, kinda.
Actually,
Yeah.
it
the
interjects
gyms
very
and
well.
the.
It interjects very well. So
So go if you're watching this, stop. If you're not watching this live, if you are watching this live, stay right here. If you're not watching this live, go watch the Pokemon episode because it's critical. You won't understand a word that we're saying if you don't watch it.
just to clarify, that's completely true. So essentially,
It's on YouTube.
that kind of stuff can be used.
It's on everyone's favorite podcasting service, YouTube.
There are a lot of podcasts on YouTube. In all fairness.
That's
true.
Yeah,
I was
no,
gonna
yeah.
say.
YouTube's a good place to have a huge backlog.
Yeah, I should make a podcast playlist so that way everyone could listen to the podcast all on autoplay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
for when you're doing something that doesn't really require the language centers of your brain for 72 straight hours, you could
Like
listen to it.
driving.
Like working at my desk job.
Ouch.
True.
I can't do
to
podcasts
me
at
IRL
my
for
desk.
Yeah, I don't think I could do podcasts at work. That'd be pretty hard.
Really?
I just put on headphones.
Well, that's not the struggle
Yeah,
here.
it's not
The
issue
struggle
for me.
is getting work done while listening to people talk in my ears.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like I even listen to funnier podcasts, and the lady that sits across from me, whenever I start laughing uncontrollably, or not uncontrollably, but like I'm clearly trying to stifle my laughter, she's just like, no laughing.
I imagine her as just this like super strict 65-year-old Asian lady.
I, have to, I imagined her with a ruler in her hand while saying that.
I like the
No.
point.
No laughing. And then she
She's
smacks
real-
on the
she's-
table.
She says it as a joke. She's like, no laughing. I'm like, I'm trying. I'm really trying. I'm sorry.
But see, this is the problem. If I had something that was distracting me enough to make me laugh, I feel like I wouldn't be getting as much done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no.
That makes sense.
Like I want maximum productivity.
Nerd. All right, continue. Back on topic.
Fight me IRL.
this kind of thing can be used as kind of a brand identity, right? And that can be good for marketing. Like it's a Mega Man game. You know you're in for a challenge. You know you're in for this many bosses. You know each boss is going to have a unique mechanic. Each boss will give you a new item. And I say one of the cons, this can be creatively restrictive, but
Yep.
a pro here is that you can be just as creative in a fine formula. So a good place to be creative with how is each boss different from the previous iteration? What item do they give you? How is that new and different? And,
Before we get too much further, if you haven't listened to our podcast on video game bosses, that's also essential to this one.
Yep.
Is it?
You actually should not watch that episode.
Please don't. Please don't.
The episode is very long.
we were catching our stride, okay?
It's a 3-hour-long episode if you actually want to listen to that.
I don't think it's 3 hours. I think it's like 2 hours and 52 minutes, to be fair.
Oh,
Yep.
perfect.
that makes or breaks it for me.
No, for
We're shooting for an hour and a half. So
Yep.
We've almost doubled our time on that one.
Speaking of which, we are almost at 35. Never mind. Ignore me.
We're at 35 minutes.
I was gonna say we've been streaming for almost an hour, but we have the pre-show thing now. So carry on. This has been a mess.
I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
2 hours, 52 minutes, 40 seconds.
That good memory.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, you uploaded a new Beat Saber thing.
Back on topic.
I don't know if I have more to say for the pros. Like,
Yeah, I guess shameless plug. I stream Beat Saber's Beat
my
Saber twice a
God.
week now
You stream
on
it-
this
you
channel.
stream it on this channel.
On
so
this
it's
channel.
like-
This is
you
incredibly
post a link to it in the chat.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll drop a link.
I got you.
Yeah, twitch.tv/Jacob Freeman Inc. Please don't try to pronounce it as Freemaniac because you'll end up at the wrong place. Because that's not how you spell maniac.
What does Jason? Yeah, what does Jason Free Maniac do? Tell me.
All right, Mitch, are we ready to move on to the next slide?
No, I haven't talked about the cons at all, and I'm not sure I'm done with the pros.
But you did mention the cons
said you were
of being
done.
creatively restricted.
I said I wanted to say it doesn't have to be that way, but you can very much restrict yourself too much by sticking to your formula too much.
I'd agree.
And,
yeah, Pokemon.
So there's a certain game, I'm sure you all know what I'm thinking of, that does this exceptionally well.
Yes,
That
I
game
do.
Is of
Talk
course.
about our Lord and Savior. You're not talking about Todd Howard?
No.
Whoops.
Talking about Pokemon, right?
No, he's talking about Yoshi.
Talking about
None of you have said
Legend of
Skyward Sword. Oh my god.
Oh.
Actually, I don't have that. I don't think Skyward Sword's issues come down to tradition, but
I thought
It
the
does come down to
issues were
bad.
like you backtrack too much. That's like the
True.
main thing I hear.
Getting those musical
I
tadpoles was so
fishing,
fun.
I was fishing for Skyward Sword, but
Okay.
I honestly don't think its issues come from sticking to tradition or breaking it. More so, just making terrible design decisions.
Glad we got that covered.
Yeah, I'll come back to that later. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. Next slide. Let's just talk about games and how they do this.
All right. This Assassin's Creed meme. I would like to give a moment of silence for everyone who is watching the stream live to go ahead and look at the Assassin's Creed meme. I will read it aloud for those of you listening remotely. Caption on the top center of the image. 2016, Assassin's Creed is always the same, I hate it. Full stop. Next line. 2018, this is not Assassin's Creed anymore, I hate it. And then it is a picture of the Fallout thing with
The
its
ball
head
boy.
messed up, and
Ball
it
boy,
says,
yeah.
"Excuse me, what the esport?"
That's a meme. Yeah.
Being read that way, it probably actually makes no sense.
It's so one of his arms is coming out of his back, looping up around like a loop-de-loop you'd run through in Sonic, and
I
his hand
think-
comes out. It's missing a finger.
I'd hope
But-
our viewers are familiar with this meme. It's a
I've
pretty
I've
popular
actually
one.
never seen it before in my life. So
Really? It
pretty-
comes up.
Nope.
Popular. Really? Okay.
Uh,
Oh, it kind of died, I guess.
I guess we're in different circles, but it's an oldie.
yeah.
Yeah.
We also could have posted a link to this in the YouTube description, but we didn't.
I mean, it's not that old. It hit its peak in like the trending in between August 12th and August 18th of this year.
Good to know.
You know
This
that?
podcast has been full of relevant information today.
Excuse me? Where did you get this information?
No, you're mean.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
You got me there.
It has the search interest from Google Trends embedded in there.
But in terms of like internet lifetime, that's like 10 years old. You know,
Yeah.
like 2 months.
This
The
is
end
such
of
a
August.
beautiful Dwang. Next topic.
True.
Well, I'll start with Assassin's Creed. As many of you know, they took a year off, and then they released
Good.
Assassin's Creed Origins, which was very different in structure than the previous games. It's now an RPG, now like I've never played the game, but has anyone here played it? Last that
No.
Nope.
Nope.
it's
No.
now a lot. The supernatural stuff's a lot more in your face. Like
I
can
know
ride a-
you
you can ride
fight
a
a
horse that's on fire, and
yeah.
even
You fight like a
more so.
giant crocodile god or something.
Yeah, it's in Egypt, and I'll quote one of the developers who said, "Assassin's Creed and Egypt will never. Egypt is a terrible place for Assassin's Creed."
He actually said that?
Mostly, yeah. What he meant for that was in the traditional games. You know, you're hiding in a big crowd, you're jumping from roof to roof in a very dense city, and Egypt just doesn't have those. So
Oh.
that's kind of what made Assassin's Creed 3 so terrible. That was the one in the colonies in America. Is that it's like you have one wooden house and then a road. And it's like,
Well, yeah, and their attempt to work around that was like, oh, but it's the frontier, so there's tons of cliffs and trees and stuff. But then when you get to the settlements, because they're so short, it's like, oh, you were stealthing? No, now you have to like either be like snake tier level of stealth or you just fight everybody. But you've got tomahawks, so you might as well fight.
on the combat in the old games was always just atrocious. It's sit there and wait.
Well,
and
one
wait.
especially. Two, they tried to fix that, but I mean, everybody was so used to just doing the counter button that all their attempts to make a combat system went to waste.
Yeah, so they've overhauled that now. It's kind of like an RPG where you have stats and you do damage
Yeah.
and numbers are flying everywhere. And same with Odyssey is you can now play as a woman. They actually had one of those in the old ones, but
Oh man, do you remember when one of the
Something-
Assassin's Creed games was coming out and they had no, I think it was the one in France. I forget what it was called. But they were talking about like, "Oh, why are there no female assassins?" They're like, "Oh, we can't
Oh.
animate females."
I
And they're like,
remember
"Excuse
that.
me?"
Yeah.
Because they made one for the Vita that they re-released, and I think it was called Liberation, and you play as a female assassin the whole time. So it's like, what do you mean you can't animate a female? You did that on the Vita, and then years later, everything's coming full circle. Now they're like, hey, you want to play as a woman? Play as a woman in Sparta, the most badass of women.
True.
the most
When
badly
they would
important-
cut their hair short and then wait in a room, and then a man would sneak in through the window and had do sexy times and then leave. That's real. That's actually real.
What?
What?
I'm a little lost on the context
I'm a
there.
little lost, yeah.
I don't understand the point of that story. But
That was Spartan history when they would like when a woman would like they were gonna have kids or whatever, or they wanted to like bone to have kids. They would cut their hair short and then go into like a house or whatever and wait basically at like laying down, and the husband would have to like run away from the military or like sneak out and then go and do what needed to be done and then leave. This is real.
Why'd they cut their hair short?
I don't know, but it was specifically they cut their hair short.
Okay.
All right, so
That's my history lesson for you guys.
so Mega Man
Thank
or
you.
Assassin's Creed.
So yeah, Assassin's Creed, they've really changed up the structure, and the game seems to be selling a lot, better. I would have brought up sales figures for all these games, but someone decided that I was doing this week yesterday, so that person may or may not have been me.
Got
Let's
him.
talk about DQ.
DQ.
Dragon Quest.
Yes, that one.
I think
So-
Jake should talk about Dragon Quest. Actually,
I should.
What?
Played it?
Now it's slime time.
Never played
You
Dragon
played-
Quest in my life.
You've seen me play the
Yeah.
Dynasty Warriors version.
what is
Everyone
the-
says
what
8 is the
does it-
best. Which one should I play?
8 or 11.
Dan is thinking of King's Quest for those
Oh,
listening here.
Gosh, Dan. Gosh.
So what
Maybe.
Dragon Quest is it's like the de facto RPG. You think Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest is better. You think like Pokemon, Dragon Quest did it better. And I'm serious, but Dragon Quest actually had the Pokemon mechanics for catching monsters before Pokemon was even a thing. That aside, essentially you have Dragon Quest 11, which is kind of like the My Hero of RPGs. It's
Meaning?
you haven't you've seen it all before, but it just does it so well that you don't care.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy.
Yeah, thanks. That's the second one I've made today. The other one was about the buying a GameCube without a memory card.
One for all, full cowling.
So yeah, it's got the turn-based combat, and it makes it really engaging by being just quick enough that it doesn't. You're not sitting there for an hour killing us. You know, you're not doing the Xenoblade. I'm gonna spend 10 minutes killing a wolf. but it also it's hard to explain, but it's very good.
I heard 15's the goat.
That's final. Wait, what?
Wait,
What?
What?
Is that the new one? Whatever the new one
It's
is.
11.
11.
11. Oh, my bad.
Yeah, so 11 and 8 are the ones to play. The rest are all you can get them on the DS, and playing a game on the DS is just awful. So I don't
A
suggest it.
game on a DS is awful.
Yeah.
Any game. That's not.
Isn't the most recent version of 8 on the 3DS?
Yes, and they added 2 extra characters to it, so it's kind of fiddle with your party. So that's kind of cool.
Speaking of Dragon's Quest, Dan brought up King's Quest, and it actually fits in this very
That's
well.
Exactly what I was hoping someone would.
So King's Quest, the first 7 games in the series, and that's a lot of games in a row to follow a formula, and they did. And it was like it was a point-and-click adventure puzzle game with witty humor sprinkled throughout, and that was what it was known for. Then King's Quest 8 came out, and King's Quest 8, instead of being a point-and-click 2D adventure, it was a 3D horror RPG.
Really?
I had more of an adventure game, not an RPG. An action adventure game
You said horror.
Horror?
with horror aspects. Yes.
Is this the one I played with you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So and that it was like you had, like a sword and a shield and a bow and arrow, and you were in first person, and like that whole deal. And it is so hated by the King's Quest fan base that they just pretend it doesn't exist.
Mask of Eternity?
Mask of Eternity, yeah, is the game.
Oh, it's the Federation Force of.
And people, like, when King's Quest fans refer to the game, they don't call it King's Quest 8, they just call it Mask of Eternity, like it's from a different series.
Well, that's hilarious.
But
No, actually, to go with Julian's example, that makes more sense if it was Other M. Nobody says Metroid Other M, they just say Other M.
and but then
like how people
King's
say
Quest
GT.
King's Quest 9 came out somewhat recently. Actually within
Yeah,
the
it was
past
on 360.
within the past few years, and that game went back to a point and click style, though done in 3D, and more with the witty humor and telling a story and stuff like that. That game was received a lot better. Tremendously better, in fact, because it went back on what made those games good, but also, brought it to the modern era, which is good. King's Quest 8 tried to bring the game to the modern era and just totally get rid of everything that made it King's Quest, and basically abandoning all tradition outside of the name and the name of the kingdom. Like, you didn't even play as the same character. None of the characters in King's Quest 8 were in the previous King's Quest games, except for like one random character. And but it was still in the same kingdom. It was a lot of very strange decisions. It's also considered one of the worst games ever made.
And
King's
isn't it,
Quest, hold on,
one of-
King's Quest Mask of Eternity?
Correct.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you super sure?
That's the
Because
game
I'm
I'm
looking
talking
at
about?
scores for it, and like a bunch of them are in the 80s. Like
Oh, yeah,
there's
the
one.
reviewers don't know anything.
I mean, it is one of my favorite games ever made mostly because of nostalgia and other things.
I mean, it
But
could
the
be a
King's
good
Quest
game,
community hated the game and still hate on the game to this day.
Damn.
It is a great game though. Everyone should play. But don't expect a King's Quest game. Don't expect it to be good.
Expect.
So that's-
Okay.
I think that's like an interesting thing to like bring up though, because it's a game that was kind of hated by the fan base, but maybe wasn't actually a bad game if what Mauricio is saying is true.
Yeah, that actually kind of surprised me to hear that it would have
Yeah.
any good reviews, because even
So
by the time
So,
standards,
well-
it was considered to be pretty awful.
yeah. So what I think is an interesting point is because, well, to go with the whole tradition thing, if we go to Zelda, right? The first Zelda came out. That was the first Zelda people had. There was no real like defined formula for it yet because there was one game. So the second one they did it's something completely different. Like
Well, that's
Link's.
a lot of NES games back in the day.
Yeah, because that was the beginning. They had time to experiment. And so looking back, a lot of people say like, "Oh, Zelda 2 Adventure Link sucks. It's terrible. It's side scroll. It's garbage. Whatever." But like back at the time, people, I mean, they could say as a game it was hard or whatever, but they didn't. They couldn't really. There was no real ground to say like, "Oh, it's not a Zelda game," because that's all that there was. 2 games.
So see, you have games like Zelda 2, but you have games like Mario 2, which deviated heavily from the formula. But still
Again,
great.
yeah.
Well, so the weird thing about Mario 2,
Well,
I'm sure
it
most
wasn't
of you
originally
guys,
a Mario game. Yeah.
I'm sure most of you guys know this, but just like to fill in those who don't,
Go watch
the
Digital
original Mario 2 was too difficult,
Doki
or
Doki
they thought it
Panic.
was too difficult for American audiences, so they instead reskinned another platformer and sold it in America as Super Mario Bros. 2.
Doki Doki Panic, like Will Lerone said.
And then if you got Super Mario All Stars for the SNES, which Jake didn't know existed,
What?
I did not know it
What?
existed.
They re-released that for
Nintendo
the
fan.
Wii.
so if you get Super Mario All Stars for the SNES, there's a game on there called
Lost
Super
World.
Mario Bros. The Lost Levels,
The Lost
and
Levels,
that's
that's it.
actually Super Mario Bros. 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
have
I knew
that.
about the lost levels. I just didn't know about All-Star. Whoops.
Lol.
So that covers a little bit of the legend of, that starts the Legend of Zelda bullet point.
Which I guess I'll move into now.
Yeah.
So
Go for it.
mostly what I want to talk about is Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, where so you have the Zelda formula, the 3D Zelda formula. You go into a dungeon, you get an item, you use that item to beat the boss, and on the way you'll shoot an arrow at an eye on the. You'll probably get stuck walking on the ceiling for 15 seconds because someone thought that was a good idea. The usual. I was a call to Twilight Princess, by the way, because that game's terrible. So.
Are you gonna get to your point, Mitch?
No, I'm making up the point as I go. All right. So Skyward Sword, right? It kind of sticks to the traditional formula, and it makes some mistakes, and assuming that you don't know how to read or think or deciding that maybe we shouldn't, like, let's just play the game for them, right? Or maybe we should
Back to
these
the
motion
tradition
controls
thing.
No, keep going.
So the traditional aspect comes from oh god, you made me forget. I was about to say it, then you yelled at me and forgot. What? I'm just gonna be ranting about Skyward Sword motion controls. So let's talk about Breath of the Wild, which deviates heavily from the formula. And we'll
And
see
it's
what.
the GOAT.
Yeah. So you've got this really deep combat system, which the other games just didn't have. The other games were stand there, wait for the enemy to stop being invincible, hit them. This one
Does
is
Breath of the Wild have a deep combat
I
system?
wouldn't call Breath of the Wild's combat system deep, but I say it's more enjoyable than the other
Well, you
Zelda.
have so many more options.
it's a good combat system.
I guess.
It's not the best, but it's good.
It's okay,
It's-
maybe.
I mean, I don't know. At the end of the game, I was kind of just like, well, never mind. Yeah,
Yeah,
you do
you-
have options. It's fine.
You mastered the system. That's
Yeah.
there was something to master, and you did.
That is true.
That's part of what gives it its depth.
Yeah, it was more than
Okay.
hitting B and waiting, which was a
Yeah.
lot of earlier Zelda games. Ocarina of Time.
Ocarina. Oh, I was about to cough and say the same thing.
So, thank you, based Ego Raptor. So you
Rest in peace, Eco Raptor.
Yeah, he's Aaron Hansen now.
Yep.
got crucified by the internet. Cat, shut up. Hold on, my cat needs to leave the room. I'll be right back.
Oh my God, Mitch, please.
All right, to continue
So-
what Mitch was saying about Legend of Zelda. This is guessing and total hearsay. but
Jake is breaking up. right?
Breath of the Wild.
Okay, good. I thought that my internet was just hacking up. Yeah, Jake, you're coming in super.
Oh yeah, but just so you guys are aware,
What is this? What did I come back to?
just so you guys are aware,
Oh, yeah, you're back. You're back.
my internet is being super utter trash. So
Uh-huh.
the stream's gonna have like gaps.
Nice.
Yep.
Oh wow.
We-
Yeah, it has been lagging.
Yeah, we have dropped 6,051 frames this stream.
That's like
10 minutes or 10
that's 10
seconds?
seconds.
10 seconds. No, we're streaming at 30 FPS, so that's 20 seconds.
Okay.
Yikes.
So we've dropped 20 seconds of stream time,
Are
which
you
is
are you recording this locally?
I'm not.
No. You're just uploading the Twitch version. So
Yeah,
For
well,
all-
usually it's fine, but I'll start making local recordings from this point forwarding for
Is
days
this
like
another
this.
cursed episode? Like our first episode of season 2?
Yeah,
this
I
is
don't
another
know.
cursed episode.
This is the third time I've streamed this week, and every time I've streamed this week, my internet's been garbage. So,
They know.
based Comcast is throttling me. Bring back net neutrality.
Comcast knows.
So you've got this bonus of a really good combat system, and they have these really unique designs for the game that I'm not sure that was tradition, but you have the 4 dungeons, so to speak, and they're all really interesting, and they require a different tool set than most of the dungeons in the previous Zelda games. They're not necessarily difficult, and Zelda games weren't necessarily difficult to begin with.
But they do require some 3D puzzle solving and lateral thinking,
Yes.
which I appreciate.
They are
Yeah.
good, and it's
Yeah, finally
that-
making you think in the third dimension again. What happened last time they did that? The water temple.
True. To steal more Mark Brown content.
Yeah, people hate that dungeon, but it's like the only good one in Ocarina.
That's
See,
these
it's
are
not
facts.
bad if you play on the 3DS because
It
you
wasn't.
have the boots on a button. Playing
Yeah.
that on the N64 is atrocious because you have
I
to open
agree.
the menu, unequip, go back out.
Yep.
Yeah, I never played Ocarina of Time within 64.
Oh, I
So
remember
on
hating it.
3DS, Water Temple was enjoyable for me because I was like, oh wow, this is fun. I wonder why so many
Completely
people
agree.
had trouble with it. And then
Yeah.
I learned later because I never played it on N64 that you couldn't just put boots on a button. And I was like, oh shit, that sucks.
Yeah, boots weren't an equipable item. They were, for some
you
odd
short.
reason, on a different screen, and it was weird.
That's the power of remakes. That'll be a topic for later.
Power Pine Sol, baby.
That's true.
Remakes are on our list, and that'll definitely be a core topic there. Yeah, but so a detriment from straying too far from the tradition that Breath of the Wild faced was certainly all of those 120 shrines, all being just about awful. Some of them are creative. I don't know, like 1 out of every 5 is either just a combat trial, which is not very interesting the next time around, or just like, why did you ask me to do this?
Some of them are just like why are they in the game? Some of them are just clear padding. You know, I
Yeah.
can't think of any good examples.
It's definitely
Who kill him?
they could have done more.
There probably should have been 90 shrines.
Like, it wasn't as
Yeah.
polished as it really deserved to be, and that kind of came from breaking from the formula, not having an established what works and what doesn't. So we're gonna try. It didn't really work out too well.
Yeah, to be fair, I like the shrines, and I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of really great shrines. And I know you haven't done the DLC, Mitch, but the
I haven't
the
done
DLC
DLC.
shrines I feel like were the shrines they really wanted to do in the game. Like all the DLC
there
shrines
is-
are they're all bigger than every other shrine in the game that I can come up with.
That's
And they're more like mini dungeons, and they have cool puzzles, and they're actually like really awesome.
Is Champion's
shrines.
Ballad really that good?
It's pretty good DLC.
Okay.
I haven't finished it. Spoiler, but
just need to go back and
I've done like 6 out of the 16 new shrines or something, and they were all really great. So
do that here. Yeah. So I'm not saying the shrines are inherently bad, just that they didn't live up to the
Just that
potential
they
they could have. And that kind of comes from not having an established thing to kind of see what works and what doesn't. I said that already.
How do you guys feel about the shrines where you have to find them, and once you find them, there's like nothing?
I thought they were trash.
that's fine.
Depends on finding them, because it was seemingly random. Like sometimes
way, I
you go
haven't
through this
played the
whole
game,
quest
so-
ordeal. Like you have this entire quest to do, and it gives you a shrine. There's nothing there. Sometimes you have this quest to do, and you get in the shrine. There's a challenge. It's like what?
I was okay with that.
Sometimes you'd have a shrine in like the side of a mountain that was really hard to climb up to, and there's nothing there. Okay, fine. Sometimes there's an extra challenge. It's just inconsistent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and part of that just, I mean, 120 is a lot to ask for.
Yeah.
But did we ask for it?
Well, I mean, I just wonder if you took the 30 best shrines in the game and they only put 30 of them in there, would people have just said that shrines are amazing?
They would complain that there are too little shrines. There's too
Yeah.
little-
But would they?
The grass is always greener.
30
People always
seems like a
complain.
lot.
In the size of Breath of the Wild, you would never
Perhaps
find-
not. I mean, they could have put other things in the world that weren't shrines,
That's
Yeah.
true.
like
There's
on the
other
overworld.
stuff.
like dungeons.
Yeah, but I mean, they could have filled the spaces with 90 of the shrines with something else. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Some of the shrines have like an extra challenge. Some of them just don't.
Because it's easy to point out the crappy shrines.
Oh yeah, it's so much harder to make something good than something bad.
Insightful.
I'm going to recommend we move on to the next slide.
Did you
Alright,
hit
so
that
God of
insightful?
War.
That was the biggest burn.
God
And
of
burn the
War,
shit outta
as you
you.
might remember, the older games were just kind of like big old hack and slash, kill the big monster, spam the
Yup.
button,
Yeah, that's what I hear.
and you get this new one, which is
Kill the monster,
There-
bone
there's
the
a-
priestess.
there's a story. There is his chain blades are gone. He has a son. Ah, everything's different. I hate, but it's actually like a really involved combat system. Where you're throwing the axe, you're pushing buttons to get it back, you're freezing people, you're doing whatever. Watch the Mark Brown video. They created something that they couldn't have had if they stuck to tradition. If they kept them with the chain blades, they wouldn't have been able to create the combat system they did.
Blades of Chaos, you cretin.
So would you say God of War needed a revamp?
Probably not. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not about
needed.
needing
I
it,
don't
it's
know
about
about that.
choosing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They could have probably just made another one exactly like the old ones, and people still would have been happy.
But I do feel like more people who like, for instance, I have never had any interest in any God of War game ever until this new game.
I've always
Why?
wanted to play them, but like, you guys know the story. My parents are like, well, when I was a kid, like I couldn't play video game games, but I
Yeah.
really love Greek mythology. Like, I always wanted to play them, but I just never did.
Yep.
We already talked about Call of Duty. Oh, the meme.
Galaxy.
Talk about Galaxy.
So this one's kind of like, so you had the traditional 3D Mario games, right?
Hot
Mario
take
64,
incoming.
Mario Sunshine. right? You have these games, and I'll be upfront. There's no challenge to them, very little. But you have this
Ooh.
whole. they
That
put you in
is
this
not
whole
true for all people. Let's just be clear. Not all of us are you, Mitch.
Fine. They put you in this little open world, and you're kind of able to explore it, find the shine, star, whatever, and it's kind of cool because this area evolves over time, and you really get involved in it. And you go to Galaxy, and they're like, none of that. This thing that made the game good, no, take it away.
Galaxy is a 2D Mario game put on orbs.
But does that make it bad? I say no. I'm ready to 5v1 here. Let's go.
Isn't Galaxy pretty well received generally?
Very well
only
received.
It
played-
is a
Yes.
very well received game.
It's actually
I-
like a sin to hate Galaxy.
Yeah,
And
I've
some
only
people are.
played a little bit of Galaxy 2 and I was not impressed.
Thank you.
I'm ready to 5v1. Let's go.
Thank you. It is a game that is all about. It is the Call of Duty of Mario games. It is all about that next explosion.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah,
Jesus,
That's about it.
No, not, it also sounds really nice.
Yes,
I
it
wouldn't
has probably
say-
the best
Okay,
soundtrack
the
of any Mario
aesthetic.
game.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
aesthetic,
right,
the
yeah.
aesthetic of the
It's
game is
quite good.
cool, and the
and
concept of
that's
the concept
Yeah.
of the planet gravity stuff is cool.
It's a great movie.
Maybe
Yep.
I should play it.
Jesus, Mitch. Holy shit.
So being linear, well, it doesn't make it bad in my opinion.
It's not what he said.
It's not.
Mitch is going for the jugular.
The linearity is not really the problem. It's more that you don't have as many tools as in 64 Sunshine to move around the world, and they never ask you to run the world. There are very few times where they ask you to do anything other than forward.
Yeah. They give you this like really interesting physics engine and world, and then they don't really have you use it.
They use it as an excuse to take away features that were there before.
What features? You can long jump. You can backflip, spin jump.
Yeah, I don't know if they really remove features so much as they don't ask you to use them.
64.
It's been a while, but there were a few jumps taken out, and of course flood.
Well, flood is a sunshine specific thing.
Yeah.
Funny you mentioned that, Mitch. Actually, because a lot of people didn't like. Well,
I know a lot of
always
people
knew.
didn't like flood. I know
Yeah, a lot
I'm
of
the
people
contrary
didn't like
here.
flood or just sunshine in general. They thought it was like inferior to 64.
Yeah, which I don't
Sunshine's
get
the
because
black sheep.
Sunshine's the best 3D Mario game ever made.
Hey, have you played Odyssey?
I'm
Okay.
working through it now, so my opinion may change.
Odyssey takes it for me.
It's pretty good.
So what I think about the sunshine thing is that people don't like flood because of the hover, and that takes away the challenge. But in my opinion, there was never a challenge to begin. That's not what made the games good.
Mitch, I'm cutting myself on your edge right now.
How is that edgy?
He's
Like,
being a
crap.
contrarian to the internet.
You're trashing like every game here that's like.
There are
It's
only
like, oh,
three.
there was no challenge
games.
to begin with. Like damn, dude.
Like that's what people on the internet complain about. That's the biggest complaints about Odyssey is that there's no challenge. There's never been challenge. What are you guys talking about?
Oh jeez.
Okay. I've died more in Odyssey than like any other game in like recent years.
I'm not saying it's trivial, but I'm just saying like it's not Dark Souls.
Well,
It's not
so
Dark Souls.
one of the things I don't like about Odyssey is there's no consequence whatsoever for dying.
Really?
Hey, we'll get to that.
I mean, I know there's no lives, but I hear everywhere like, oh man, like I heard people say, thank God there are no lives. That was annoying.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree. I don't like
But,
lives.
they get rid of 5 coins.
10 coins.
Like,
I thought it was 10.
It's
10
10.
Yeah.
10 whole coins.
It's
They get rid of
meaningless.
10 coins. It's like it is absolutely meaningless.
I mean, does there need to be a meaning to that?
I mean, if you're gonna make it effectively meaningless, why not make it actually meaningless?
What happens if you
I
fall down a
think-
pit? Just
I
take
think
out bits?
nothing. If you're gonna take away 10 coins, just do nothing. Like
I mean,
when
it's
I
not
fell down a
just
pit-
it's not just taking away 10 coins. It also does reset you. Like you have to redo whatever thing you were trying to do that you got killed in the first place.
Yeah, that's all it should do though.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
they're
The
not
removing
gonna
10
commit-
coins is kind of pointless.
If they're not
Especially-
gonna commit to like actually making death meaningful in any way beyond slightly resetting your position, they should just get rid of any penalty.
Is there? I'm trying to remember. What happens if you run out of coins somehow?
I don't know how
does
that
it
would be
does,
possible.
Is that possible?
does it reset you to the beginning of the area or something?
I don't know how that would happen. I
Yeah,
can't see that
you would have to die
happening.
a lot. But I don't know.
I can't even imagine a universe in which I die. Or
Maybe
in
you
which
just
I run out
spent
of
all your
coins
coins at one of the shops. You spent every coin you had, and then you died. That could happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if any human being has ever done that.
Okay. That's just mean.
I mean, one of the devs probably did at some point.
Maybe.
Maybe the game crashes. I don't know.
Hey, after the Luigi thing
The
came out,
game
like it was so hard to like lose coins. It's like you play that Luigi thing for an hour and you max them out.
Spoilers.
I haven't gotten
It's-
the Luigi
it's-
thing yet.
It's the DLC, the
the
Luigi's
balloon
Balloon World.
right?
Oh.
I know nothing about that.
It's
Fraud Nintendo. I have not played Odyssey, and I know this.
it's a hide and
Fraud.
seek essentially. You hide a balloon somewhere and someone else has to.
We also talked about this on the podcast before.
Oh
So-
yeah, we did.
We did. Yep, I remember that now because people were like being
Hanging
at
them in walls.
esports
E-sport
holes, and they were putting balloons in impossible to get locations, or like
Anywho,
you had to glitch.
Perfect.
Anyway,
transition into mechanics.
into
The first
mechanics.
one. We have. I'm waiting for the stream to catch up.
Yeah, lives and Mario
Lives.
Odyssey and Super Meat Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a
So-
great transition.
Very well. So traditionally, it's you have 3 lives, you die, you start over, you lose a ton of progress. The old days, you start the whole game over, because you don't have saving.
Yeah,
Just
savings.
checkpoints. What are those? So as we discussed, Mario Odyssey, you just lose 10 coins and you go, great. Go experiment all you want. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know. I was gonna go with good, but I've heard some pushback on that. I'll say why I think it's good is it lets you just experiment without having to worry about it.
I say
Again,
it's good.
as I have said, I don't think these games derive their enjoyment from the challenge.
Mario
Yeah.
Odyssey.
And I mean, you
Super
can
Meat
make
Boy,
it as
yeah.
challenging for yourself as you want.
Exactly,
I mean,
and that's what gives it depth.
like if you die, you could choose to like reset your console every time you die, if that's how you wanted to play.
The speedrun strat. You have Super Meat Boy, which you die, you're immediately back in. It's like back at the level, you go again, you try no loading screen, no nonsense, and then once you win, it shows you all of them going at once.
What makes that game challenging is the level design, not having lives. If that game had lives, it would be like impossible.
And I'm saying it throughout having lives, which is a traditional element,
Right.
in order to improve itself.
Yeah.
So you've got this nice little cinematic, and just you can throw yourself at that wall as many times as you want.
Yeah.
And what about tell us about healing, Mitch?
So, first-person shooters, Doom, whatever, was health packs, right? So
Yeah.
as you get hurt, you get a health pack. And then comes Halo, and it's like, oh my god, regenerating shields with a health pack under that. That went away pretty. Like, oh my god, it's revolutionary because the designers can design fights around a expected amount of health. They don't have to like marathon the whole level perfectly to get to the next part. They can't. Oh my god, everything is amazing. The world is solved. No more war in Africa. They caught Coney in 2012.
Coney 2012.
Yeah. And you have Dark Souls with this Estus flask, which says healing items. Now, you get all of them back after you die. And it's just part of your effective health if you can use them properly.
Yeah.
I love the Estus Flask
I keep
mechanic.
saying, if they just left it in Bloodborne would have been the best game in the series. But no, they had to ruin it.
Like, I've never played a Dark Souls
Not
game,
really,
but that's
Mitch.
an awesome
because in Bloodborne you can only have a set amount of blood vials and that's it. And same thing with the Estus flask. You have a set amount, and
the
later
vials
on
don't come back though. You can run out, and you have to go grind them out. This is the issue.
right. But then in Dark Souls, the only way you can get more Estus is if you set out a bonfire resetting the enemies.
Or
See
die.
what I'm saying? Or
Yeah,
die, sure.
You don't have a grind though.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like that exchange is roughly, it just puts it at the same instead of just like, oh, geez, I only have 5 in the beginning. It's like you have 20 at all times, and you can adjust to that.
I mean, you don't necessarily have 20. If you get stuck in a boss, you'll run through all of them, then have to go back to the first area and kill those 2 werewolves.
Right. Same thing with Estus, though.
But Estus, you don't have to go and kill anything. You just get them.
I guess. I just don't see that as being too bad of a.
I mean,
trade.
if you're good at Bloodborne, you'll never run into that issue because you'll never
Sure.
run out of blood vials. If you're bad, like I watched Joe be very bad at Bloodborne, he constantly got frustrated because he had to constantly go back and grind out blood vials. It's not fun.
Rest in peace, Joe.
Rip Joe.
We're talking about the same Joe, or
No, this is Joe Arroyo.
okay.
Oh, never mind. I don't know you, Joe.
I should have just said not the Pikachu man. Anyways, I censor that part out. What was I at? Oh yeah, saving as a mechanic. I have a nice picture here showing how saves used to work in Mega Man. So
Is that Mega Man 1?
I don't know.
Okay.
Mauricio would probably know better than I do.
Probably not Mega Man. This couldn't be Mega Man 1, I don't think.
Where is this picture?
On the stream?
Here, I'll
I
throw
don't
it in
watch
the chat real quick.
Yeah, I don't watch this stream, yo.
Wow.
Wow.
I threw it in our podcast podcast. the
That's
one
Mega
on
Man
the
2.
Discord. 2?
Okay.
Okay. Really old, really outdated system of why, what, how you can hack your way to the final level if you know the right passcode. It's crazy. It's weird.
Memory
don't like it.
restrictions, bro.
Memory restriction, technology working against us.
More like DRAM restrictions and having to have a battery inside of your game if you wanted saving.
This is
Yeah.
true. Let's go back
Yo.
to two other ways of saving that kind of came out. These are the games I know them best for. They might not necessarily be the games that coined them, but you have Dark Souls, which if you so much as think about breathing, it will save. You
Yeah.
are not save scumming in this game. If you make a bad decision, you are forced to stick with it.
Yep.
Wow.
I
thought
like that.
saves them.
I like that a lot.
You say that until you accidentally like feed Framped a weapon that you didn't want to, and you're like, "Ah, shit."
Part
Now
of the
I need to
game.
play the game. Now I need to play the game over to get that back.
Part of the game.
Or when you
Or
try
you
to
use
you
the-
try to roll to the right, but the guy jumps, it crosses you up, so your camera flips, and you roll to the left off the cliff, and you're like,
Yep.
"Ah."
Do you all like that?
I mean, no, I hated it
It
at the
has its-
beginning. Are you
it has its
serious?
good and
Okay,
bad.
I think they're like in the case that Mauricio said, where you could like give away an item that is very difficult to get or whatever. I think games that have no save scumming ability should pay mind to make situations like that less frequent to happen or impossible to happen.
Hey, if you gave Framp the wrong weapon, that was like 30 button presses.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying. Still.
Yeah, it could happen, but
I never did it, but I'm saying that
Yeah.
that's a possibility. You know,
You always
like-
think, right? Like, oh, I have a way to sell items now. Now I can go farm souls more easily. And you just realize it's so much quicker to just not do this.
yeah, to just play the game.
To just not do this.
So like, here's a situation, Mitch. You might understand. This never happened to me, but like I have 20 broadswords that I want to sell to Framps
Right.
for whatever meager souls I get, and then
Right.
you start to get a rhythm down with your hands, moving at the exact amount to get the sell the broadswords and just hit yes without even looking, and you did one too many and sold something you didn't want to.
Right, exactly.
Shit.
That's definitely
Dark Souls
That's
preys on
dumb.
your vigilance in more ways than one.
yes, it does. It's good and bad to all of these.
Okay.
And I'd say the good is kind of debatable good, forcing a certain experience on the player, which I think we talked about that with the difficulty level stuff. So, is there a right one? And the Dark Souls says yes, there is a right one.
I mean, Dark Souls, some of its enjoyment is derived from its difficulty.
Yeah.
It
in the
is
sense
meant
of
to be a
pride
difficult
and
game. It is
accomplishment.
advertised as a very difficult game. They don't make
Yeah,
they don't make you question like they have like the prepare to die edition and like
And-
Did Dark Souls always start out as like the de facto difficult game? I feel like that
When-
was like a
yeah. I remember when it
wasn't the
came
first
out, people
entry
were comparing
called-
it to being NES hard, which is
Okay.
like,
yeah.
you know,
Wasn't
I remember
there,
that term specifically when it came out.
Wasn't there a what am I trying to say? Sorry, I had a brain fart.
the first entry was Demon
Oh
Souls.
yeah, the
Damn.
first entry was Demon Souls.
That was on the PS3. Yeah.
That was the one that it waited way too long to get ported over because, again, they didn't think America could handle challenge. I think we said that about Mario.
Yeah.
That's not so much true anymore, but so that was kind of why Dark Souls was the game, not Demon Souls, because no one really knew Demon Souls existed.
Mhm.
Kind of like how nobody knew Xenoblade existed until Smash came out.
Yeah.
I feel like Smash just helped a lot of game series
Yeah.
out.
Fire
Who,
Emblem,
who knows what
Ooh, yeah.
Mother is?
Mother.
Earthbound,
Yeah, I was
Fire
gonna say-
Emblem, Xenoblade. Yeah.
No.
Falcon, F-Zero.
Anime helped Fire Emblem. That's
No, Melee. That
nah.
basically the reason why. I mean, Awakening.
reason I-
saved-
The only reason I played a Fire Emblem game is because of Smash.
The only reason I know Fire Emblem exists is because of Smash, and I didn't even
That's
know
like
there was
everyone in
anime
the West.
until this
The
very
only
moment.
reason I brushed my
despite all
teeth
that, it
is
was
to
still
fight
gonna die.
gingivitis. Sorry, are we back on topic now?
So then we have Elder Scrolls, which goes the opposite approach. Is
There we
you so
go.
much as think
F5,
about breathing.
F5, F5.
So much, yeah. Quick save, kill the whole town, quick load. Azim said something to me, quick save.
When
oh,
I was
I died, quick load. I killed a guy.
You know what
Saves
the funny
gone
thing
all
about that to me is that Dark Souls, or not Dark Souls, Elder Scrolls, especially like the modern Elder Scrolls games, like when you save. Like you save everything. like they track the game state so closely. It seems like it would lend itself well to a game that didn't allow save scumming. because it like
See,
saves state as if like you're going to only ever have one save. But since you can just quick save, quick load whenever you want, it's kind of
the
defeats.
problem-
Seems like it defeats the purpose to some degree to me.
The problem with Elder Scrolls is that it's buggy. You can get trapped in a wall, and if it saves, if you didn't have control over saving, well,
Toosh!
screw you.
Now, Mitch, that's
My
not really a
save scroller
problem.
is 5 gigs.
That's part of its charm. Let's be real here.
And it would not be part of its charm if you couldn't save scum.
Saving is very important.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
You wouldn't use charm to describe it at the very least.
The bugs, I would definitely use charm to describe the
Those-
bugs.
No.
Yeah,
In a case where save scumming isn't possible, it would be
Yeah.
way less charming.
When
Yeah.
a class
Okay,
just
yeah.
There
Right,
are
that's what I
other
meant.
ways to solve problems like that, but saving is one.
you
The
know,
problem
when
is
you're
you
walking
can
down a
still
path-
screw yourself in that kind of condition. What if you only have one save file and you just keep saving on top of it? Or you didn't know you were stuck and then you saved and turns out you're
soft
stuck.
lock yourself.
Wait, did
Well,
you hear me
that's-
when I
No,
said
I
how big my save folder was?
How big is your
5
save?
gigs. Yeah, I heard.
Oh my god.
Dang. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a problem. Like
Yeah.
people's Skyrim files get save
Like
files
each
get,
one
like,
is like
enormous.
25 megs.
Yeah, the PS3 had a
Or 20, yeah,
problem where,
25 megs.
if you had too many saves on Skyrim, the PS3 would just crash.
Oh
Which is-
yeah.
It was partly why they couldn't get the DLCs on it until way later. Oh yeah, but part of the charm in the bugs is walking up to a giant and getting launched into space.
That
Yeah.
wasn't. Was that a? Is that a bug?
That's
Well,
a
it's
bug
more
made
If you're too early in the game because you're so weak, it like just the way the damage is dealt, you go flying. So when you're higher up level and you die, you don't go flying. But
when you see a flying
I
Well,
guess technically it's
so-
a bug. But yeah,
it was
but
a
the
bug they
game-
decided not to fix. So
The game puts you right by giants at the beginning intentionally. I remember.
yeah,
like,
but intentionally the giants don't attack you until you
Yes, but
go
they're
into
not
their
they're
territory.
not supposed to launch you into orbit.
I don't. Maybe okay. So my theory is that it was
My
a
game theory.
bug that
It's a bug-
they
it's a bug
liked
turned
so
feature.
much.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
confirmed.
Okay. So yeah,
it-
but like
if you-
I remember I was playing on like November 11th, 2011. I just got Skyrim. I was super excited to play it.
What a
And I saw a
grand-
giant. I'm like, "Oh, I got to go kill that thing." And it's a super memorable moment that I'm glad happened.
right?
Yeah.
part of the charm.
Like
I
That
love how
felt
that was
very
your first
intentional.
thought. Like Dan 2011 was like, I need to kill that thing. Me as a not
Intellectual.
Dan, I was like, I'm gonna avoid that thing for now because I kind of want to get to the next area just past him.
Or you're walking around, you just see a flying mammoth. Okay. You look up real close and you see a horse riding it. And all right.
It's good to be back, gentlemen.
My favorite thing when I played Skyrim was riding a horse up a vertical cliff.
Or
Oh,
picking
yeah.
up a-
It is
picking up a
excellent.
bucket and ramming into a wall and just going through.
And going
Oh,
straight
man,
through it,
Jake.
yeah.
Or
Jake,
putting
if
a
you
bucket
think
on there.
that's good, you should play Oblivion.
The paintbrush.
oh yeah,
Horses
the
are-
paintbrush glitch.
Just drop a paintbrush and it just floats. Like, okay. So yeah, that's next slide. I have one more point to make, and then we can have free discussion in the next 7 minutes.
Well, we can go into our final segments.
Yeah.
So what you can also see, I don't know if you've updated it.
Yes, we've moved on to the
That-
new slide.
Character designs can evolve in the same way. You can say, well, traditionally Yoshi had that little slump there, right? You see in the melee one, the bottom left, he's got a nice S to him, that thick booty. And you move on, it's like, oh, he's standing straight. He's sitting and his tail's short, so it doesn't not destroying the theater chair.
He's not a steed anymore. He's his own person.
You don't
Wait,
need no
wait.
Italian plumber to throw him off a
Can-
cliff.
Can someone like explain to me what's going on in that top left picture?
That
That
was the
is
original Yoshi design.
the first drawing of Yoshi, I think.
Yep.
Yikes.
That was Yoshi's original design. So we can be glad that didn't happen.
That
I
ain't it,
believe,
Chief.
I believe that's the one they wanted to put in the first Mario Brothers on the NES, but they couldn't
Oh,
make
yeah.
it work with the technology.
Yeah,
Yep.
Miyamoto said that. Yeah, he wanted Yoshi in the first Super Mario Brothers, but yeah,
It's actually
others-
pretty cool.
Hmm.
IMO.
Mm-hmm.
And Mario's also punching Yoshi in the head.
That is canon.
That is canon.
That Mario punches Yoshi in the head gently.
So that picture on the right, just a
It's a
casual
love tap.
reminder that Superstar Saga. It's one of the best games ever.
Picture on the
But yeah. Anyways, you end up with this atrocity at the bottom right. This Cappy Mario Yoshi thing.
I didn't know that was a
Please.
thing.
I told you that before. I showed you a video. Anyways, it plays like more like Chameleon Twist than any other Yoshi game, which I guess is fine.
Wow, you brought
Shout
up
out-
Chameleon
Shout
Twist?
out, who knows about Chameleon
I
Twist?
know
yeah.
about Chameleon
Oh,
Twist.
I have no
Is
idea.
that, wait, that's on the N64, right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I am so happy with this group, except Jake, of course.
Yeah.
Both
I
of
actually
Mario
never
characters.
played that, but my friend did, and he showed it to me. I was like, "What is this?" He's like, "It's like." It turns out my friend was so bad at that game, he never got past the first level as a kid, but he still loved it. It's like, yes, that was a good game.
Such
Very
a
good game.
strange game, but it's great.
Hmm.
Probably
the-
terrible by today's standards, but yeah, that's all I
N64
got.
3D platformers. Yeah.
Anyone think of any other characters that, or any game mechanics that would, either dropped off the map or completely changed or are stuck around?
I mean, off the top.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. In Oni, well, since it's kind of topical, in Onimusha 1,
We
came out on the PS2. It was a good game, whatever. Then they redid it on the Xbox, called the Genma Onimusha, and they added a mechanic where every so often, after killing enemies, a green soul would appear, and if you absorb 5 of those, then you go super powerful.
Ooh.
And that was only in like a special version of the game on the Xbox. The other version didn't have it. But then they kind of carried that over into the subsequent games because it was like, hey, this is actually something that could help. You could save it until a boss fight or whatever, and you could carry it forward. So I just thought that was a honorable mention. Also,
Jake, what
Onimusha
are
is
you
coming out
doing?
on Switch.
I found out you can zoom in to the PowerPoint presentations.
Ooh.
Very cool feature.
Wow.
That was a
Thanks.
very Owen Wilson wow there, Dan.
That's very good.
Wow.
I wasn't
Wow.
going for that, but I'm glad it happened.
I think we only got like 4 minutes left on the stream, so
So I say we go into our next segment,
this went better than I thought.
Shenmue Watch.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah,
we're doing
Shenmue.
things in a different order.
We have Shenmue Watch today.
I didn't do Shenmue Watch this week, so if it sucks, it's not my fault.
Revealed Sega's canceled Shenmue HD remake with fully updated graphics.
This is all you, Mitch.
What's up?
Didn't you share this?
I didn't read it. I never read these.
So Shenmue. Okay, I guess
Isn't that
I'm
part of the hype?
Shenmue, Sega HD not happening. Got it?
Yeah.
All right, next.
Wow, this is a long article.
This is a very long article for not saying a whole lot.
Oh boy.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately, they instead of making this remake, they just ported the old games to PC instead, and that took longer.
yeah, some of these the graphics, like the remade graphics, look pretty decent.
Why did they cancel it?
The final release versus the unreleased version. If you look at this side by side thing that I'm showing on the stream right now, it's drastic. I imagine this is going to be something like Shenmue 3, where the final release will look worse than the absolutely breathtaking, staggering screenshots they're showing us right now.
For the reason
Damn,
they
dude.
canceled it, because they wanted to focus on the ones they did release, which were, just ports.
Yep.
Okay.
So players new to the experience could experience Shenmue's original charm.
You say players canoe to the experience?
I heard that.
I heard canoe.
Yeah.
You definitely there's definitely some "k" in your anew.
I
Thank you,
was
Jake.
assume-
You
I
put
was
that so
trying-
eloquently.
Wait.
assume I-
Okay,
I
so
would assume I was going for can, and then I swapped to new. Gonna go
so
with that.
if you go to the bottom of the article, you'll see that they reached out to Sega for a comment, and Sega has not responded yet, but they'll update it if they.
There's an update at the top of the article.
We know
Fuck.
a PC build.
The update from Sega is that Sega has been in touch with this statement. Sega and D3T indeed started exploring the feasibility of a full HD remaster for Shenmue 1 and 2. That being said, we soon realized that this project was with its own set of challenges. Working with original animations and characters but meshing them with enhanced HD visuals gave us a game that we felt would not meet the standards that Shenmue fans expect and deserve.
But
What the
Shenmue 3
looks
doesn't
like
look
garbage. What do you mean?
Any standards of anyone, Shenmue fan or not.
Maybe they want Shenmue 3 to have the same